right? So
Yes.
my first myth and that I have for you is gluten-free diets are always healthy.
Well, that's something like more of a fad right now. I think everybody is into gluten free now. Keto diet is gone and now it's gluten free. Well, I wouldn't really say all gluten free diets are healthy, because even if you have, let's say, a cake which has quinoa flour or bajra flour and you add half a cup or 1 cup of sugar in it, it definitely wouldn't be healthy. So it's not about whether gluten free is healthy or not. It's all about how you use that gluten free and why you want to use that gluten free in your diet. If you are sensitive to gluten, you have a gene that makes you less resistant to gluten, then it makes sense to have a gluten free diet. But again, if you're looking at whether all gluten free diets are healthy, I will not say all of that is healthy. uh, it depends on how you mix and match it with other foods and then make it healthy.
Okay. My next question to you, Dr. Suresh.
Yeah, Mayuri, I can hear you.
Okay. So the question is, antibiotics cause burning in stomach. That's why we need to take after the food. So what is your take on this?
The answer is yes and no. Because yeah, any kind of medication you take creates it is something that is not natural. So anything that you take in the form of medication or processed thing will create some kind of discomfort to the body. Okay, so why do we ask people to take food before they take antibiotics? Is antibiotics directly attack your gut, and the kind of science we are getting now about prebiotics, probiotics, and gut microbiome proves this point that these antibiotics also kill the healthy gut flora. Okay, that is the reason some people, I mean, you cannot compare all people's immunity and come to a conclusion. But yes, in some people there were issues, but doesn't mean that it is a rule. If you are eating healthy, then they wouldn't cause that much distress. And one more thing, one suggestion, and one note to Varsha. I mean, Varsha, your profile is very impressive. I don't know that you did so many things since we last. Okay, so
Thank you, Dr.
congratulations
Suresh.
on learning. And second point is, Mayuri, I think because this is all about Q&As,
Yes.
so whether Varsha makes a point or I make a statement,
Mm.
you let other people's, I mean, other people in the group also respond if they
Yeah,
have
sure.
further questions.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure, sure, sure. So yeah, so the next question again for Varsha. So you can eat whatever you want as long as you exercise.
I wish that was true.
Most of us actually.
Yes, I mean, maybe at a younger age, I think that could be something we can look at. But as we age, I think definitely diet and exercise go hand in hand. And diet plays a major role, in fact, whereas exercise would be about 25-30% role that it plays. So definitely, whatever you eat, you have to burn. Now, whether you burn it in terms of exercise or whether you eat less, it all depends on your body mechanism. So I definitely would not say that exercise, you can eat whatever you want and just exercise. That's not how it works.
Okay. So let me admit her. Okay. An interesting question, Dr. Suresh. Hello, Dr. Suresh.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, Bear gives you a belly. How far is it true?
It is the person who is having the beer is the real problem. Okay.
Okay. I mean, I've seen many, I mean, people come for weight gain to me. One of the
Hmm.
client actually asked me this question.
Yeah, drinking beer will help
We-
me gain weight or
Weight
something like.
or something. Yes.
So again, all these things are fads. I mean, we all know the science behind
Right.
it. Okay,
Right. Right.
so if you look at beer scientifically and look into its alcohol content, it's hardly 7 to 8%, maybe 5 to 8%. So how much of that alcohol is being converted into energy and how frequently they take? Okay, you
Okay.
cannot blame everything on beer, but the person who is taking it, see how much quantity, how frequently, and along with that, see, I always tell in this thing in my class. So people think that cashew is bad. Okay, eating cashew is bad, but it is one of the best nutritious foods. But the name cashew got is because of its friendship with beer and other alcoholic drinks. Okay.
Right.
So the point is, yes, will it create, if you are already full and drinking beer, definitely it will add to your alcohol, your calories.
Okay.
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 But again, it depends upon the person, the frequency, how regularly they take it. So yeah, I wouldn't personally, I wouldn't blame beer.
I know. Okay. So Varsha, I have this question. Obesity is about willpower, not biology.
No, I definitely wouldn't agree completely to it. Definitely, obesity is related to our biology. There is a certain particular reason why somebody puts on weight, and that putting on a weight, as you know, doesn't happen in 1 day's time or 2 days' time. It definitely happens over a period of time. And there is something that happens in the body because of which there are complications that can arise because of that. So it is definitely biology which is involved. At the same time, I will not stop myself from saying that it is willpower. Definitely, there is some amount of motivation that is required from the person also, because their self-esteem definitely comes down at that point. So, willpower along with some motivation from the family and friends is definitely something that will help them. So, it's a combination of both.
Right. Okay. Suresh, Dr. Suresh, uh, physical activity only counts if you do it for long period of time. What is your take on this?
Physical activity, I mean, as Varsha said, is not for people who want to get healthy or have a problem. It is must for everyone. Okay. So if you are not doing some kind of physical activity, okay, you are definitely at risk. It's not about the duration. And on top of that, uh, I always speak about this, how you are approaching. I always joke with my classmates saying that, I mean, whenever I go to any park or in Hyderabad, this Necklace Road, I see people running or walking. They are doing their physical activity with anxiety, just to protect themselves, not to gain health. Okay, if their doctors say that you don't have to walk, you don't have to do any physical exercise, none of them would have been doing what they are doing. So my point here is, it's not about the length and duration. Of course, if you do it for extended period of time, there are benefits, definitely, yes. But how you are doing is also important. Okay, and you cannot count just because you are doing physical activity and fitness as your something. Look at the way Milind Soman does. He does it with so much happiness. Okay,
Right.
so that is more important. Whether he is an Iron Man, whether he did that, he enjoys every bit of it.
True.
Okay, so it's not always the quantity that counts, but how you approach it. If you think that it is my duty, I have respect for my body, I have to do it, then, I mean, you don't stop taking a shower, right? Every day we take it. So similarly, physical exercise is important, but not always the quantity.
Okay. Okay, we have one question. One of the questions from audience, Meda Math is asking, does high protein diet help in weight loss? Varsha, can you please address this?
Uh, does high protein help in weight
Weight
loss?
loss.
See, it's all a matter of how you adjust your macronutrients. Now, I cannot say as a blanket rule that if you have high protein that it will help in weight loss. It all depends on how the person is accepting the food. Now you can have carbohydrates also, but what kind of carbohydrate you have is what matters. Now, even in protein, the type of protein that you have, the amount of protein that you have also matters. Now, ideally, we would give a low carb, low fat, and moderate amount of protein for a normal person. But then, if I have only protein and reduce my carb, will it help in weight loss? It may not. So it's all a matter of adjusting those macronutrients for one person and customizing it to that person. And depending on what their activity level is, what their diet intakes are, what their medical condition is, it all depends on that.
Okay. Continuation to our first question, that gluten free. There is another question from audience. Varsha ma'am, meal replacement with gluten free protein shakes, is it a good option?
Meal replacement with protein shakes.
Gluten free protein shakes.
Gluten free protein shakes.
Yeah.
First of all, I wouldn't recommend meal replacements. For a normal individual, I don't think I will recommend meal replacements at all. I don't believe in supplements to that great an extent unless it's really, really important. But for somebody who's normal, I think just a regular gluten-free meal is absolutely fine if you wish to have gluten-free. I don't think you need to have meal replacement. Okay. If that's the question.
Okay. So my question is, healthy and nutritious food is more expensive?
That's a tricky question, but I think it's more about when you look at healthy food. Now, let's say a salad. Everybody knows it's healthy. Now, if you have a salad in Subway and you have a salad at home, which is costlier?
Obviously,
definitely the Subway one, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think the question should be whether it is healthy food or unhealthy food that is costly or cheap. I think it should be more about homemade food, whether it is, healthy food is whether homemade or at a restaurant. Right. So that should be the
question. Okay. Now moving on to Dr. Suresh. So I have this question actually. One should eat only organic plant-based food to stay healthy?
Need not be. See, look at the human beings at a bigger scale, right? People live in forests, people live in deserts, people live in poles, okay? And people live in sea for so many days. But human body and physiology is so adaptable that you don't have to go for specific things. What are all the things that that is there available freely on the net? So may not be true. As dietitians, it is our job to clear these fads. Okay, body is extremely adaptable, no matter what. But the thing is, every day, are you abusing your body or respecting it? Okay, we want our bed sheets to be clean, house to be clean, but what about our human body? Okay, so I don't think that is required. Yeah, so human body is adaptable.
Right. So, as you said, that's why T-Talks is here, Dr. Suresh. Authentic information.
Yeah, that's a wonderful thing that you are doing. I mean, I should really appreciate Janaki madam when she brought this idea of T-Talks and communicating certain things. Kudos to her energy for so many years. Whatever she is doing for dietitians community, she is the one we all look up to when we need some support and strength. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, Varsha, we have a question from audience. So Medha Mat is asking again, how to deal with senior citizens' obesity with comorbidities?
Well, if senior citizens, yes, definitely there'll be some comorbidity that they have. Of course, diet-wise, we'll need to look at what exactly the comorbidity is. Now, is it blood pressure, or is it cholesterol, or is it diabetes, or is it any other heart issue that they have? So micronutrient-wise, we'll have to look at what exactly their issue is. But if you're looking at the only obesity part of it and you want them to reduce weight, I think with age also what happens is our body has a lot of changes and our intakes are supposed to reduce. We can't eat at age 60 what we used to eat at, let's say, when we were 20 years of age. So intakes per se need to come down. The quality and the quantity of food definitely has to come down with age, especially if they are somebody who maybe they have a knee issue, they are not able to walk very fast, or they're not able to do much exercise. It's recommended that their food intakes reduce, of course, and little amount of walking or little amount of exercise is definitely recommended for such patients.
Okay, so in continuation to the same question, what kind of exercises we can suggest for senior citizens?
See, that all depends on what is the kind of comorbidity that they have. Now, if they are somebody who has some kind of a ortho issue, then it will depend on how serious the issue is. But I would generally recommend at least walking to start off with. That's the minimum thing that anybody can do.
Okay. So the next question to you, Varsha, again.
Mm-hmm.
You will gain weight if you eat late at night.
I think our bodies are tuned or supposed to be in a way that it's meant to be. So we are supposed to sleep or rest in the night and eat during the day. So the sun sets in the rises in the morning and sets in the
circadian
night.
rhythm.
Exactly. So I think that's how we were made, and that's how it's supposed to be. But yes, I do understand that today's times are different and we are in a different era altogether. But one thing that will really help in maintaining weight is to ensure that the time of sleep and dinner, that there's at least 1.5 to 2 hours of gap between that. Because most of us, what we do nowadays is we come back home late in the night, just have dinner and crash. So that is something that should be completely avoided. At least 1.5 to 2 hours of gap should be there between dinner and when you go to sleep.
For any suggestions for this people who work for night shifts?
See, it's okay if you can have a snack, let's say in the night. So even if you're working through the day, your dinner is not at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the night. So let it be a little earlier, and then you can snack on little things during the night while you're working. That might be a better option than having a heavy meal at 1 or 2 in the morning.
Right. Okay. Over to you, Dr. Suresh. People say that fresh is more nutritious. What is your take on this?
Fresh.
Yeah. Any food is fresh is more nutritious.
No, that is obvious. We have to take everything as fresh as possible. Okay.
Right.
So I just want to add to what Varsha said about the night shift. I mean, in Hyderabad, I worked with a few staffing companies where people work overnight. Okay. Again, the body will adapt. But if you think that I am working, I am miserable, and I am eating late, and that's why I'm gaining weight, so you're feeling sorry for yourself. Okay. That also needs to be changed. Okay. Body will adapt, and you continue to give right kind of nutrition. That's what it is. Okay. So the same thing comes back to again being fresh. So why are you eating food that is preserved, canned, that has come from West? Okay, all the food is processed and all the things are canned. So that is not definitely, but luckily at least we are living in India and we cook our food every day, right? So eating fresh always helps.
Right.
It's important.
Right. So the same in continuation to this again, Sayali is asking, no salt meal at night, is it I mean, does it work in weight loss? Any of you?
Yeah, it's not that only salt or sugar or carbohydrate or something is making you obese or unhealthy. We have to see the way everything is designed. Okay, if you look at carbohydrate, I mean, I think I mentioned it in one of our classes that where the carbohydrate is coming from. Okay, whether eating a jalebi or eating quinoa rice. Okay, so the body doesn't know where it has come from. End of the day, it is a simple carbohydrate. Similarly, if we think that salt will make us fat or obese, no, it doesn't. Okay, we
Right.
have to see from that point of view.
Okay. I would like to call Dr. Janaki. Over to you, ma'am. Ma'am, please unmute yourself.
Thank you, Mayuri. So this question for Varsha.
Yes.
Usually we talk about evidence-based nutrition. So evidence-based nutrition may change. Today it may say one thing and tomorrow, or maybe after 1 year it will change. So what do you think about it? Do we have to follow the whatever that is there currently? We have to follow the current thing, or do we have to go with the practical application? Do we have to really go on talking about evidence based all the time?
I do believe that we need to look at evidence-based for a guideline, no doubt about it, because that gives us an idea as to how things work or how it has helped other people. But at the same time, I would also say that you have to be aware of how your body responds to it also. Like for example, today we are saying coffee is good. Tomorrow we'll say coffee is bad. We all know oats is good for diabetics. Now, I had a client a few years ago where she would have oats and her sugar levels would increase. Now, if I'm looking at evidence-based as a blanket rule, then it should be okay with her to have oats. But then oats really didn't suit her body, and whatever she would do, her sugar would increase. So what I'm trying to say is it's not always right to only look at evidence-based. It's also good to see how your body responds to that particular food also. So that way, your body is always different from somebody else's body. So it's good to look at it and be aware of how your body responds.
Probably, as you said, we have to look for the guideline.
Yes.
And also the evidence can be the evidence with the client.
Yes.
The evidence that is you're getting is like now oats is not agreeing with her. So that kind of evidence maybe. You have to
Yes.
look the evidence in a different angle altogether.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
See, one here on Facebook, we have one question.
Okay.
I have one question. This is by Darshi Jain. She's asking related to protein powder. Many people come to me and always ask about protein powder for weight gaining and bodybuilding. Please tell me what are your thoughts on this?
Protein powders and weight gain and bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So ideally, if you're doing, when I say bodybuilding, if I'm doing 1 hour of high intensity exercise also, I think our normal natural foods will be enough to meet the requirements of that high protein diet. But if you're looking at a proper high intensity workout by, let's say, a sports person or somebody who's really into sports, for them, I would recommend some protein powder for them to take as per the instructions of even their fitness expert. But for normal people, I don't really see a need for them to have any extra supplementation.
In continuation with the same one, maybe this to Dr. Suresh, this creatine-based powders people take for bodybuilding, it increases testosterone but causes hair loss and kidney stones. What is your say on this?
Madam, that's wonderful, Varsha. I mean, the way you said about evidence-based nutrition. So, the information is freely available, madam, for people across the world. Okay, you get to have access to all the information, but as dietitians, we are supposed to titrate that information and give specific advice. So, yeah. If we look at only biochemistry and creatine, whether it causes, yes, there is evidence that these things do really harm, but is the person is willing to take on their own or consult a professional? Okay, and because being a professional, you get to know more about the patient, and you can decide on their own. We cannot give a generalized blanket rule saying that, okay, taking all these things will harm you. For some people, as Varsha said, if somebody is into fitness, bodybuilding, and if they require, there is no problem in suggesting a supplement. But will they all cause problems with kidney and all? Yes, evidence suggests that, but not everybody can take it. It has to come always from a professional.
Right. So one more question to you, Dr. Suresh. Taking omega supplement every day is good for heart. So how much to take? Is it really good for heart? Is it every day?
Madam, uh, I sometimes find these things as fancy names. Okay, omega 3. Just flax seeds, you will get omega 3. Okay, and look at the oils and look at the kind of rich flora and fauna we have got, and these things. Why we always have to go for supplements? See, you don't take a medicine. I mean, in India, we all take all nonsense medicines just across the counter. But at least when it comes to the food or food supplements, let the dietitian decide. Okay. So just because I am taking omega 3, will it save my heart? No, it will not. If you are doing rest of the things wrong. Okay, even if people talk about fitness, you're doing maybe half an hour, 1 hour of activity. What are you doing with rest of the 23 days? Okay, that is also important. So will omega 3 protect a heart patient? If I'm a dietitian and if I trust my dietitians with my patients, if they are saying it is good for the patient, they know everything about the patient. That is the reason why they are prescribing. Okay,
Right.
but as a general rule, as a blanket, and just give a statement, I wouldn't dare. Okay, just
Okay.
don't go blindly for it.
In continuation with the same, there's one from the Facebook, Fatima. She's asking how much physical activity an individual should do if on a weight loss regimen. Dr. Suresh.
Yeah, again, weight loss, madam, people approach obesity from different perspectives. They wanted to lose weight for certain reasons. So the first thing, I mean, in my practice, what I learned is I always ask, why do you want to lose weight? If you want to lose weight for yourself, okay, that is fine, but you want to lose weight so that it will impress someone or for some other reason, then it is not genuine. I wouldn't even entertain such kind of people. Okay, so that is important. So you have to look from that perspective. If you are making a choice, you need to understand why I am making this choice.
Okay. So it's making choices, and in conversation with the dietitian to what kind of choice to be made. That's really something you are supporting us so very well, Dr. Suresh. So this is for Varsha. Milk products are fattening and unhealthy, causing gas and bloating.
I guess again that's back to your evidence-based, ma'am.
True.
I think it's all individualized. I don't think there is any blanket rule saying that milk causes bloating. So it has to be looked at from an individual point of view and then recommendations given.
Okay. So maybe for a lactose intolerant and all, maybe that will be a problem.
Yes.
And post-operative stages and people who are on antibiotics.
Yes.
Might cause because
specific
they are low on
conditions which
microbiota.
might be short term. It may not even be something long term. If you really need to know, similarly for lactose intolerance, you need to check whether it is actual lactose intolerance or not. So yes.
Okay. So artificial sweeteners, are they safe? Do you recommend?
For normal people, definitely no. As in, if somebody is going on a weight loss and they want to have artificial sweeteners, I won't really recommend that. Frankly speaking, ma'am, I believe in natural foods only. I would rather give somebody, say, a date paste or a raisin paste to curb their sugar craving rather than, of course, sugar. We know sugar, jaggery, honey, all of that is not to the best of the sugar that we need in the body. But as substitutes, we have a whole lot of other substitutes that can be used. And I don't think we need to go artificial there. But if I'm a diabetic, definitely I think if the person really wants that sweet craving, once in a while, even if they have dates or raisins is okay. But on a regular basis, they want to have it in their tea or coffee or something like that. I think a minimal amount of sweetness is still fine, but not too much and in every food.
But finally, you say natural thing is better than the artificial one.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So at least they can do another 10 minutes of workout to burn whatever they have taken.
Another 10 minutes of
workout.
I don't think that's the balance.
to burn the extra sugar that they have taken. Because it's the instant energy.
Instant energy. And it will be utilized.
Yes.
So Dr. Suresh, taking multivitamin supplement with food helps boost energy. Is it true? Many people just before leaving to office early in the morning after the breakfast, they pop up a multivitamin.
Yeah, ma'am. It's a tricky question to answer because when I posted a review on what your doctor doesn't know about nutritional medicine, I received so many questions. The doctor is positively supporting nutritional supplement. So are you also doing that? So we have to look at these things with the context included. The context was, see, he wrote that book almost like 20 years back. And in West, the food processing industry is very strong. Okay, everything that is there is totally refined. And he felt the need that supplements are required, provided you are eating only the canned foods, processed foods, and refined foods. Okay. He was very clear. But in India, unfortunately, we are not that much eating processed food. We still have a lot of options. So just thinking that taking a multivitamin will make me healthy is like skipping responsibility. Okay, I will do whatever I wanted to do with my life, but I'll take this pill and this will save me my life. So that if you are taking with that attitude, so as a dietitian, you have all the right to prescribe someone a multivitamin because you know what they're eating, what they miss, you know about micronutrients and you know about the macronutrients and what they missed and why they are here. So it has to be left at that. Okay. So it's a blind belief people suffer with, that just because Salman Khan comes on TV and promotes Revital, don't think. I mean, we also must know how hard he works to keep his fitness. Okay, he's promoting it for business thing. Okay, don't think that you will become Salman Khan just by having Revital.
Continuing with this vitamin supplement, Neelam Jain, she's a very regular audience here in Tea Talks. Yeah. So she's asking, 90% Indians have vitamin D deficiency. Doctors give vitamin D supplement once in a week. They recommend it to be taken for a longer period of time. We know that vitamin D is fat soluble. Should this be okay? Because it's a fat soluble vitamin. How much and what, I mean, at what length we have to take for how long, these things maybe she meant. Is it okay to take? Dr. Suresh.
Dr. Suresh.
Yeah. Madam, I know you wanted only short answers, but I couldn't control my urge to give explanation.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
2 or 3 minutes. So vitamin D, if we study only the science, right? So it is less and we have to take supplements to correct it. But what vitamin D actually is, okay, it comes from sun. So and without that first part, you cannot have enough vitamin D. And vitamin D is not only considered within a ton of hormones and is essential for well-being. The question we need to ask is, why are we losing vitamin D? Okay. So look at our life.
Sorry to interrupt. Are we losing or are we not manufacturing? Any evidence on that?
That's the question, man. So look, if we look at our lives, we live in a box. Okay, that means a 4-wall chamber, and we move in a box. Okay, a 4-wheeler, something like that, and we work in a box. Go to office, close. How many of us actually been to nature, climbed a tree, went to a forest? I know how much you love your nature and your Antarvedi trips, and I all know.
Myself. Even Maradmilli forest and what is that? The forest, Nallamala forest.
Yeah, exactly. So if you are not living in nature, your body thinks that you are living in a much smaller box. So where do you go when you die? Okay, into another box, maybe the smaller box. So our body thinks that we are not living our life. Okay, so just look at our lives, and we start living closely with nature. Okay, getting vitamin D is not a big deal. So you making your living, earning, and running after your life, and not able to do something that is required, your body thinks you are half dead. Okay, that's how I see it. It's not about like your body is not able to make it, but we are not giving it an opportunity to make it. Okay, what's wrong in going to your garden and tending to a plant and talking to them, touching them, go in the sun, once in a while have sweat, run, laugh. Yeah, laughing is a big commodity nowadays. People almost forgot how to laugh. So this is how I see it, madam. Medically speaking, as a doctor, if I see a patient suffering with vitamin D deficiency, I would definitely give a supplement, because I cannot change a person overnight, and they look for this immediate relief. But I wouldn't promise that as a permanent solution. Sorry, I took time, but
no problem. So you are recommending that live out of the box.
Out of the box. Yeah.
Think out of the box. Live out of the box. Varsha, how bad is MSG? This is from Mamata from on Facebook.
As far as we don't use it on a regular basis, I think it's okay. Of course, it has sodium, which can affect people with blood pressure and heart issues. But if we use it once in a while, I don't see any harm in that. But it shouldn't be like how we use normal salt. That's not how it should be used.
Okay. One more question from Shalu Jain from Facebook itself. Can we take flax seeds daily in the morning, empty stomach? I don't know why, but she's asking. Varsha.
I don't see any harm in that, but even if you take it during the day, it's okay. I don't think it has any specific reason for it to work better on empty stomach or with food in it. I think omega flaxseed works either way. So you can use it either in the morning or in food, however you want.
Or maybe does it, because of the fiber, does it reduce your hunger or something on empty stomach? Does it reduce hunger?
Not that I know of, but maybe you could mix it with something and have. So if you're having a porridge, you put some seeds in that and have. You have a smoothie, you put some seeds in that and have. That might also work.
Okay, so is honey safe for diabetics?
Well, it's a half question. So is honey safe? Now, how much of honey do they have is again the question mark.
Once you say it is okay, take it, then they'll start taking it.
Exactly.
Then, yes.
Absolutely. So it's all on the quantity. Now, if my sugar levels are normal, I don't have any comorbidities, I eat normally with less portion sizes, I exercise, there is no harm if somebody takes 1 spoon of honey every day also. But then if my sugars are uncontrolled, my cholesterol is uncontrolled, and I want to have 2-3 spoons of honey every day, that poses an issue.
Continuing with the same one, yeah.
Even I have a doubt over here. Not doubt, actually, a question from one of my clients. She says that whenever her mother's sugars goes low, irrespective of the diet, okay, she was just asking, can we give a teaspoon of honey immediately for a diabetic patient who is like
Yes.
60 plus years old?
Yes, absolutely. We
Yeah.
can.
Yes,
So
doctor.
continuing with the same for diabetics, coconut water, can they have or no?
Well, coconut water is actually one of the most natural form of any micronutrients that we can have. It's got loads of nutrients in it. So now for a diabetic, let's say when he's sick, can he have coconut water? Yes, definitely that will help. He's out in the sun, walking, done a lot of high intensity activity. He wants to replenish his fluids. Yes, definitely they can have. But on a regular basis, I wouldn't recommend coconut water on a daily basis, because that, again, because of the potassium, the high potassium content, it can affect the body function.
Okay, so Dr. Suresh, energy bars, are they good for weight loss? Probably like energy bars, probably like a meal replacement. I know Varsha
Again,
won't recommend.
all these things are shortcuts, ma'am.
Yes.
Shortcuts, yes.
All these things are shortcuts. I mean, we don't have to. Okay.
After the high is
I
over,
always
we'll get back to food again.
No, very similar thing. I tell all my clients that instead of wasting so much money on useless things, go and consult a dietitian. They are not charging. In India, their consultation is the cheapest, unfortunately. That is for your use. Okay.
I understand.
Yeah, exactly.
We need to have a session on this. How much to charge?
Yes, yes.
Include one general audience and general person, not related to our profession, and include somebody who is a professional who can decide on how to charge and have a session on that. Sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Suresh. Please continue.
No, madam. I mean, this is like simple answer, but I would like to add what Varsha said about coconut water. I know where you are from, and you know where I am from. We are covered with coconuts. Varsha, her place is from Canada. She is also full of coconuts.
Coconuts. I am away from coconuts.
We're all nuts now.
Yeah. One day, maybe I'll take up coconuts and say, not Coca-Cola. You cannot do anything with Coca-Cola, but everything with coconut.
Coconut,
Yes,
yeah.
Right.
No
absolutely.
cola, only nut. Okay. So, what about brown sugar versus jaggery, Dr. Suresh?
There is not much difference, madam. I mean, as far as I see, brown sugar or jaggery, only problem is the sugar that people are consuming. It's always about, I mean, Varsha already spoke about that when she mentioned about artificial sweeteners. Okay, so why the person want to have only brown sugar or jaggery? Are they making any difference? Are they willing to change? So here the question is how much long they want to use it, for what purpose, and whether they want to completely leave sweets and other things and depend on only on this. So that makes a lot of difference. Yeah, compared to normal sugar, brown sugar, I would always advise, and jaggery. nutritionally and medically speaking, again, they all come down to the same molecules and atoms.
Right.
Carbon,
Okay.
hydrogen,
Right.
oxygen.
So it's about the person, why they wanted to do that change.
Okay.
Okay, great.
So
So,
nutrition should be a way of life, like how you respect your body and what to eat and what not to eat. It's all about learning. Okay, just these tips, they don't work. Whenever someone calls me and ask for a diet plan, I turned down at least 3 people today, saying that I wouldn't take you because you think that I have a magic wand. I don't have. But if you are willing to work on yourself, then only I'll take you.
good, good. That's a point that we have to take from you, Dr. Suresh. So, continuing with the same question, this is for Varsha. Sravanti from Facebook, she's asking, jaggery and honey are the best substitutes for sugar. They say that jaggery helps in detoxifying liver. Is that true?
There are other things to detoxify also. If you're looking at detoxification, jaggery is not the best and only option. But if you're looking at sugar substitute, like I said, dates is a very good substitute that you could use. Kismis is another substitute that you could use. So there are other substitutes also which don't directly give you sugar and increase your blood sugar directly. So there are other options that can be used compared to sugar, jaggery, and honey.
Okay. And very nice and very interesting question coming up, Gauri from Facebook. She's asking, how do we stay consistent with eating healthy and nutritious meals? How do we combat all the information overload from the internet?
Meet a dietitian.
Meet the dietitian.
It's difficult to give a blanket rule here because it all depends on the customization and personalization based on the individual person. So it would be a little difficult to say what is it that you need to do. But at the end of the day, I think what we need to remember is whatever food we eat, energy in has to be lesser than the energy out. That's the basic rule that goes in. Now, however the energy goes out, be it in exercise or be it in doing some kind of activity, that depends on the person.
What do you say, Dr. Suresh, for the same question? How do we combat all the information overload from the internet? Meet the dietitian?
Same thing, madam. Go just, 300, 500 or 1,000 rupees, whatever they are charging, just go and meet a dietitian. Okay, that's what all I can say.
Tips for a person who is having low BP, 70/90. This is from Soumya Singh Verma from Facebook. Who would like to answer? For low BP.
Dr. Suresh, please go ahead.
We have a wonderful session from Dr. Dharani from Chennai, I think. On
First session, Dharani.
Yeah.
Dharani Krishnan.
So she said very clearly about how a dietitian should approach a patient. So this question has got very limited information, and if we venture out to come up with an answer, then we are doing injustice to our profession. So 70/90, what does it mean? It has to be 90/70. So the first thing is that. Okay. Second thing, what is the age? What is their condition, and male or female, and what did they go through? Without knowing all this information, sometimes I feel very sorry that I see posts in my group. They post this kind of messages. We have a solution. Take this diet. Do this program. It's not going to. Okay. So these kind of questions has to go to a professional dietitian who can help you with that. How can we give in 1 second that we know all we know is 90/70? Hypotension is a big subject. On top of that, we don't know anything about their condition. Okay. So just that, I mean, posting these kind of questions, that's why I handed the group to some of my students. I couldn't stand much of them. But the point is, the information is insufficient, madam, end of the day.
Okay.
Sorry, I am taking much longer than